Down to business.
When he drinks, he thinks.
That's the nectar of the gods, baby.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the #1 liquid-fueled, liquid-lubricated show on the interwebs. This is the Whiskey Musings Broadcast. And I'm noticing I changed my settings earlier today, and now I'm noticing I'm having all kinds of issues. I don't understand what's going on. So if you'll bear with me for just a second, this makes absolutely no sense whatsoever as to why this is happening, but give me just a moment. Let me see if I can stabilize it. Just a little bit here. And I think I accidentally hit a wrong key button. And hopefully that will clear some of this up. And let's see if that does it. Okay. I think, okay, based on what I'm seeing, I think I'm doing all right now. Okay. Wow. Boy, start off on a, oh, and Twitter is now unable to connect. That's weird. Okay, let me see if I can turn that off and turn that back on and see what happens here. Geez, just a 100th episode and I'm already all torn up. We'll see if this resets it, and if it doesn't, then I will go back. Okay, so here we go. All right, so everybody's up and running now. Okay, wow, yeah, 100th episode, and yeah, so all of this stuff hopefully will get cleared up. I see a couple people in the Rumble chat that are saying that they're frozen. Hopefully that'll clear up for them. And yes, that does mean I have an important message. I do actually have a very important message. First of all, my important message. Let me see if I can get this back. See if it comes up here. Okay. I don't know for sure. Hang on. I'm trying to see and make sure that that shutting down and restarting didn't mess things up on Rumble. Let's make sure. So I'm going to do a test. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I just want to make sure that I'm seeing that I'm seeing brand new stuff. So just give me a second here, and then we'll get going. Yes. Okay. So, all right. So Rumble is getting it. That's cool. I think Facebook should be hopefully getting it once I refresh here. Let me make sure that Facebook is getting it, and it looks like they are. So I got to get that back up. Okay, so Facebook's getting it, and it looks like, well, looks like the resolution on YouTube is horrible. There it goes. Okay, so now I just need to pop this out. God, just a mess tonight. 100th episode, and what happens? Technical difficulties. Holy crap. Okay, so, I think I'm actually back up. So I apologize for that. I do apologize for all of that. Hey, check this out. If you are on YouTube, do me a favor, jump over to Rumble. Rumble is better for you. And also keep in mind that I can also collect super rants over there. I want to welcome my my Rumble people that are already starting to jump around. I've got Daybreak Buddy, Red. You guys are all in, and that's cool. I do want to bring this one up because This is a congratulations for my, and I don't think it's going to be on this one. So I will do this in just a second. So let's start off. First of all, this is my 100th episode. This is awesome. Awesome. Absolutely awesome. I'd never thought that a couple years ago that when I started this out, that I would actually be getting to the point of a 100th episode. So in celebration of that, I'm going to give myself a round of applause. That's right. So this is happy 100th. And thank you all who have joined, who have come here. This is incredible. I do appreciate all of you. I appreciate everything that, you bring to the table. Tonight's episode is actually on a hot tip from one of my fellow Catriots who goes by a longer name than this, but I'll go ahead and throw this out there. Goes by the name of Five Boys on the Catriot Network on the Mark K Show that happens weekdays from Monday through Friday, noon to 3 Eastern. And, kind of kick this off and sort of set this up. But before I get into that, I have a couple of things that I need to get out of the way. First of all, let me go ahead and do my affiliate push here. So we're going to go with, if you honor and value our God-given right to self-defense by owning a firearm and would appreciate joining a community of like-minded individuals who welcome firearm owners of all experience levels, then you should consider joining the NCCA. The National Concealed Carry Association exists to serve the Second Amendment community by providing a nationwide network of Second Amendment advocates, offer elite self-defense and concealed carry training from the nation's top instructors, and provide rock-bottom prices on the best selection of gear and accessories. NCCA members enjoy shopping thousands of products with zero dealer markup, unlimited free shipping, and keep more money in their pockets with zero credit card processing fees. The NCCA encourages safe, responsible concealed carry and celebrates those who are brave enough to protect not only themselves, but their families and their communities. If this sounds good to you, visit nationalconcealedcarryassociation.com to join today. As a special bonus, use my affiliate link, ncca.refr.cc/Rick, R-I-C-K, 02, to receive a code for 10% off any purchase at nationalconcealedcarryassociation.com. Once again, use my affiliate link, ncca.refr.cc/Rick02 to receive a code for 10% off your purchase at nationalconcealedcarryassociation.com. Visit National Concealed Carry Association, all lowercase, all one word, .com to find out more today. And I thank them for allowing me to be a brand ambassador. Okay, if you need that, by the way, it is in the description of the video, both on Rumble and on YouTube. So if you need that, that would be great. And I see there is a new person, or at least a new person to me in the chat on Rumble. Welcome, Salt. Welcome. Thank you for joining. I appreciate that. And Salt and Buddy apparently are part of the Salty Army, which, if anybody has any affiliation, there is a person who is on on Rumble and several other outlets called the Salty Cracker, and he does a live stream. I think it's 3 days a week. I've gone over and he does a lot of commentary and stuff like that. Hundreds of thousands of people watch him all the time. So anyway, all right. So what am I sipping on? Well, let me tell you. Tonight, I'm actually taking a bit of a detour, diversion, alternative whiskey tonight. I'm not much into the flavored stuff that much, but I got to tell you, this one is up there. Fireball. I'm doing Fireball tonight. And of course, the green screen stuff is messing with the color of the label there, but Fireball cinnamon whiskey. Now, I know that there are other whiskeys I've tried, like the honey whiskey. I've tried the apple whiskey. My wife actually just showed me she watches bartender people on TikTok and stuff. And she actually showed me that there is a cookies and cream whiskey out there. Not quite sure I'm really going to go and sip on that. But apparently it went into a drink and it was really good for her. Now that is in my mind. Okay. So just so you know, this is what I think it is, what it tastes like. Whoops, wrong one. Haha, that's me on Rumble. Check that out. This is the original Red Hots candy. Now, I used to love these as a kid, and this is exactly what I think that the Fireball tastes like, is the Red Hots candy. And so from this particular case, this is great. I love this this particular drink or this particular whiskey, so I will use it. I have used like the Tennessee honey, for an example, the Jack Daniel's Tennessee honey before, and in hot toddies. And for those of you that don't know, a hot toddy basically is tea with whiskey, and then some honey and peppermint, a peppermint stick or a cinnamon stick, whichever way you want to go, for that kind of scenario for that. I'm also seeing some other options out there. There's peanut butter whiskey. I can tell you, I personally have tried brown sugar bourbon as well. A good friend of mine from high school, you've seen him. He's Captain Unicorn here. He's been on my a couple of my shows. He's been on, especially on the Thanksgiving and Christmas specials, and he turned me on to the brown sugar bourbon. He actually likes his drinks to be kind of sweet in flavor, so he tends to go more toward those types of permutations of whiskey if he's going to drink whiskey. But from my perspective, sometimes it's a little too sweet, so I gotta intersperse it with my normal stuff, my like my red breast and my obviously my Jameson Black Barrel. Those two are my two top ones for right now. All right. Daybreak actually just popped up and said that just tea and whiskey in a hot cup. Yes, that's true. That is true. And we have a new, well, I won't say new, but we have another person joining in the chat from the Patriot crowd. Mama, thank you for joining. I appreciate that. Okay, now, so let me get to my next thing, which of course we do this every Saturday, and I know I did this on Wednesday, but I'm going to do this tonight also, and that is reading out today's history from the American Patriots Almanac. Here we go. Today, on this day in American history. And of course, I got to put on my spectacles to read this. All right. So today is May 14th. On May 14th, 1805, the Lewis and Clark expedition was pushing up the Missouri River when a sudden squall hit the sail of one of their boats and swamped it. Captains Meriwether Lewis and William Clark, ashore at the time, looked on in horror as, quote, our papers, instruments, books, medicine, and a great part of our merchandise, and in short, almost every article indispensably necessary to insecure the success of the enterprise, threatened to float away. While the men struggled to get the boat to land, the expedition's only female member quickly and calmly plucked the supplies from the icy river. The Indian woman, to whom I ascribe equal fortitude and resolution with any person on board at the time of the accident, caught and preserved most of the light articles which were washed overboard, Lewis wrote in his journal. 6 days later, the grateful captains named a handsome river of about 50 yards in width in Montana after Sacagawea, the young Shoshone woman. Sacagawea, whose name means bird woman, the wife of a French trader, was hired by Lewis and Clark as an interpreter. Strapping her baby son on her back, she trekked west with the explorers on their famous voyage of discovery to the Pacific. Along the way, she helped communicate with some of the Indians they encountered. In the Rockies, the Corps of Discovery met a band of Shoshone whose chief turned out to be Sacagawea's brother. She helped persuade them to provide horses needed to cross the mountains. Sacagawea's fortitude and perseverance have made her a favorite American heroine. In 2000, the U.S. Mint began issuing dollar coins bearing the image of the young explorer carrying her son, Jean-Baptiste. And there is a photo in here, which I'm going to go ahead and show you. If I can get it up, there's the photo of her in the book. All right. And that is today's, on this day in American history. Got to get that out of the way. All right. So, tonight obviously is the 100th episode, and I thank all of you from coming here. I do have to pull this up because of the fact that it didn't work before, but I'm going to do it again. And here it is. Daybreak has decided to pass me with a super rant. Thank you very much. I do appreciate that. That is absolutely incredible. And I appreciate your time. I do appreciate your time in either coming here to watch the live or watching the recordings afterward. Believe me, I understand how important your time is, whether it's with family or other business. And so giving up a bit of your time to come here and listen to the information that I need to present to you is absolutely incredible. And I thank you very, very much for all of you coming here. Okay. I have some sad news that I need to cover. I don't know if anybody has really seen this, but there is some breaking news coming out of Buffalo, New York. It started to break shortly earlier today. There has been unfortunately, a mass casualty event up in Buffalo, New York. A man who has been described as being an 18-year-old white male apparently has driven to the Buffalo, New York area and opened fire on a bunch of people. And, you know, I only say this not to revel in that particular act, but to prepare yourselves, because obviously coming up in the near days, you're going to see a lot of calls for things like gun control and that kind of stuff, especially from the left, because the left, they can't focus on the individual holding the weapon. They have to focus on the weapon itself. And this is sad. This is really sad. It is horrible. It is reminiscent or you know, speaks to the lack of mental health care in this area. And so I'm just, it was, again, it was a store in Buffalo, New York. I think it was, if you search, just search the word Buffalo, New York, and you'll be able to find the breaking news stories. But apparently the sheriff up there has already said that there is some evidence that they are gathering that this will be investigated as a hate crime. Unfortunately, 10 are estimated, 10 are dead. A total of 16 have been, I believe it's 16 have been injured. And according to initial reports, apparently this person came right into the parking lot, got out, shot 4 people as soon as he got out of the car. There was a retired police officer who was a security guard at the store. And he apparently engaged the suspect, but the suspect had body armor. So do not be surprised if the left starts talking about body armor and those kinds of things as well, with regards to being able to sell and buy, et cetera, et cetera. It is a sad state of affairs. Very, very sad state of affairs of this particular event. There also was, I think, another shooting or something along those lines elsewhere within the country, but the number of casualties I think was only 1 or 2. So the news media immediately kind of glossed over that one and went right to Buffalo, New York. And of course, because of the reported perpetrators, potential ethnicity, and, you know, age and that kind of thing, of course, they're going to, you know, bring this up. But I bring that up only because of the fact that not to sensationalize this, but to prepare all of my watchers and Patriots out there we're going to get an onslaught of calls for gun control and that kind of stuff. No mention that I know of as to what type of weapon this individual used. Given the statistics, I would bet that it was not a long gun. It was more than likely something smaller. However, you know, it's absolutely horrific that this is happening. And, you know, Biden put out a memo earlier, I think it was yesterday, maybe the day before, the night of the day before, that we should lower our flags to half staff in commemoration of the 1 millionth death supposedly from COVID. Honestly, I don't know if that number is actually true or not. I mean, I don't think anybody really knows, but the fact that the flags are already at half staff, they were supposed to go up on the evening of the 16th. I would imagine that they are probably going to stay down a little bit longer than that. And in memoriam for these people that unfortunately have lost their lives in this tragic event. So, all right. Now, to get on to the actual subject of the program. So Five Boys kicked off, sent a couple links to me in my comments. And as you know, I will go and take a look at what my listeners say and what they talk about. I will pop that on and I will investigate and research. And what this particular subject is about has to deal with our national sovereignty. And to start this off, kind of to think about this, so our sovereignty, the word sovereign basically means to be a leader, be independent, be the standalone and in control of yourself. A lot of people use it for individual sovereignty. It actually refers to more of like in the monarchy, you would have the sovereign who would be the king or the queen. In terms of this particular conversation and the subsequent articles that I'm going to show to you, this has to deal with our international sovereignty, meaning the sovereignty of America to be able to stand alone and have its own, be in control of its own destiny rather than handing that over to some international organization. The article or the news reports have come out that the United States, and in particular the Biden administration, has proposed some amendments to essentially a treaty with the World Health Organization that allows the World Health Organization to declare a pandemic across the globe, and in particular in individual nation states. Now, this is not to say that this wasn't already in place. It was. However, the amendments have some very odd potentials. So let's take a look at this real quick. And I'm going to go ahead and start off with, oh, nope, got to get rid of that. Sorry. So 25 nation states have already signed on to this. And I only bring this up just because of the fact that I want to key in on a few interesting ones. For an example, the Prime Minister of Italy, we have the Boris Johnson, of course, right here where the red is flashing or the orange is flashing, Prime Minister of the UK. We have Angela Merkel, the Chancellor of Germany, who's already signed in on this. And, you know, the thing about this is, and also down here, the president of Ukraine, Zelensky, has already signed in on this. And the key to this particular setup is in regards to the changes that are being suggested. And it's not just being suggested by, you know, the nation states as a part of the World Health Organization. This is being pushed by our own government. The United States of America and the Biden administration is key in pushing this. Now, what's interesting about this is as far as I can tell, none of the mainstream media outlets are even paying attention to this. And in fact, Dan Bongino, who you know that I follow a lot and I listen to all of his podcasts, he sort of mentioned it in yesterday's podcast. The thing about it is, though, is it's kind of interesting the way this is set up. And so there's several articles that I've linked to down in the description below. And I want you to, you know, if you get the moment to go ahead and grab those, take a look at them. But the first one here that I'm going to show you, this is from let's see, who is this? This is from Joshua Arnold, who is part of the family health center or something like that, I think, the FHC. And this article, I've highlighted a couple of things here. Whoops, I missed. Why did I? Okay, hold on. I see. I need this guy right here. Okay. Nope, wrong one. Why is that not? Oh, because I didn't do that. There we go. All right. Technical difficulties. Isn't that great in live broadcasting? Anyway, so I've highlighted a couple of key points here. And one of them has to deal with a quote from Michael Alexander of the World Council of Health. And he says, quote, "The Biden administration is reportedly spearheading amendments to the international health regulations that would drastically increase the powers of the executive of the World Health Organization. Under these new amendments," he says, "the Director General would have the right, in conjunction with his internal staff, to unilaterally declare a public health emergency in a member state," and this is key, "without that state's consent." Okay, so remember that. Now, here a little bit further down, it goes, "The power to define the terms might give WHO the authority equal to any national government. But still, under the current system," and he continues quoting here, "if the member state disagrees with the WHO Director General declaring an epidemic in its borders, they can say, 'We don't agree with you,' and the matter comes to an end." That's the old regulations. But under the new regulations that have just been changed, okay, under these new regulations, the Director General can tell the entire world, for instance, that the United States is ignoring the public health warnings, which could lead to, quote, "tremendous international pressure." Now, he goes on, or the article goes on. Imagine if global bureaucrats, unrestrained by the Constitution, wanted a vaccine mandate as badly as Joe Biden and could force our major trading partners to sanction the U.S. until we complied. They wouldn't be able to force a particular country to accept its decisions, in other words, a nation state to accept the decisions, but they'd be able to use any means of coercion that they could against a country, warned Alexander. Such extensive power could dramatically reorient a nation's domestic balance of power. In a country like the United States, where power is divided and carefully balanced among federal and state governments and among their separate branches, the interference of international bodies can only serve to take power away from the people and augment the reach of the national executive. WHO's international health regulations are, quote, "in effect a treaty, but they were never considered by the Senate. In effect, the president can ratify an international agreement and incorporate it into domestic law. That's what happened with the regulations to begin with, explained Alexander. They're trying to run around the House and the Senate, he says. Now, I did take a look into that, and according to, and of course, I always like to go to Cornell law. So first of all, before I do this, let me just say this. That is scary. See, one of the things about America that we've always enjoyed is the fact that we have a national sovereignty. We have never joined into an organization and given up that sovereignty as of yet. But as we've gone through with several of these iterations throughout history, and especially with things like the Obama administration joining in to the Iran Treaty and the Paris Accords for climate change. And then you have the Iran nuclear arms treaty and those kinds of places. We've gradually been giving up little bits and pieces of American sovereignty. So the question that I had for myself is, wait a minute, I thought, and I was under the understanding that Congress was the only one that could go in and actually make treaties. And so, of course, I reached out and did a search on the internet, and I came up with this article. Now, this is from Cornell Law. And so I had to take a look, and let me just see. Treaty making power. Where is that? There it is. Okay. So this comes from their U.S. Constitution annotated section. Okay. And here's the thing. It comes from Article 2, Section 2, Clause 2 in the U.S. Constitution. And I've highlighted a key part that starts this. He shall have power by and with the advice and consent of the Senate to make treaties, provided 2/3 of the senators present concur. Now, this is part of Article 2. Article 2 defines the executive branch. For those of you that aren't familiar with the Constitution, as you should be, and if you're on this podcast, if you follow this, you should really get involved in the Constitution, figure it out, read it, understand it, know it. But in this particular case, Article 2 outlines the duties and responsibilities of the executive branch. In this particular case, what they're talking about is the president having the power, but sharing it with the advice and consent of the Senate to make treaties, provided that 2/3 of the senators that are present concur. Now, by present, it's kind of interesting, but I think that what that means is 2/3 of the entire Senate. So they put present in there because they knew that they were going to increase in time. So anyway, so the part of this is, and I'm seeing in the chat here, I'm seeing a bunch of people who are talking about, especially Buddy. Buddy, I'm going to tell you, Buddy is really, really well versed in the Constitution. Buddy also has, and I can tell you this because I know, he also has this, the Constitution of the United States, put out by the Institute on the Constitution, my other affiliate. And you can go and buy this one. This is a nice little saddleback leather and stuff like that. If you use my affiliate link in the description, you'll be able to get one of these and, of course, support the show at the same time. All right, back to this point. So the rest of this particular clause talks about him appointing ambassadors and things like that, ministers and consuls and so on and so forth. But the original setup, and I'm going to scroll down here to this, the original setup was that you saw, okay? The president with the advice and counsel of the Senate. 2/3 of the Senate have to agree. So here we have the negotiation. Now, again, this is all coming from that Cornell Legal Information Institute. I've got the link in the description below. You can go and check it out. But here I've highlighted this, that actually the negotiation of treaties has long since been taken over by the president. The Senate's role in relation to treaties is today essentially legislative in character. And there's a quote here from Justice Sutherland, who there was a case, and I can't remember the name of the case right off the top of my head, but there was a case where this was kind of argued because it had to deal with the states saying that the president negotiated a treaty without the consent of the states, which indicates a constitutional issue. So it went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court, Justice Sutherland wrote that he alone, meaning the president, he alone negotiates. Into the field of negotiation, the Senate cannot intrude, and Congress itself is powerless to invade it. Now, that's negotiation, okay? Now, further down, the Senate must, moreover, content itself with such information as the president chooses to furnish it. It says here. So the thing about it is that the president negotiates the treaty. And then the president then takes it back to the Senate to approve the treaty. Now, the Senate can actually ratify the treaty. And let me go scoot down here to my next highlighted section. So the act of ratification for the United States is the president's act, but his approval of the treaty may not be forthcoming unless the Senate has consented to it by requiring 2/3 of the senators present, which signifies 2/3 of a quorum. Otherwise, the consent is rendered would not be that of the Senate as organized under the Constitution to do business. So, in other words, if they don't have a quorum of the 2/3 of the present senators, then they can't supposedly they cannot validate or, in this case, ratify any treaty that the president puts together. Okay, now. Conversely, the president, okay, so once they ratify it, once the Senate ratifies it, the president may, if dissatisfied with any amendments that might have been added by the Senate to a proposed treaty, or with the conditions stipulated by it to ratification, decide to abandon the negotiation, which he is entirely free to do. So in other words, the president could back out if he doesn't like what the Senate is put on there as amendments. But the interesting thing about this, and this is where it really comes into a tough go, is that if you've sat here and talked to me or any strict constitutionalist, we can tell you that over history, the Constitution has been gradually eroded away. Okay. It's gradually been, some parts and pieces of it have gradually been ignored. And one of them happens to be this idea that the president has to have the advice and consent of the Senate in order to be able to enter into any kind of treaties with other organizations. Now, if we look at a strict interpretation of the Constitution, then this agreement that he might strike with the WHO has to be confirmed by 2/3 of the Senate who are present while they're doing business. So in other words, 2/3 of whoever is physically there to discuss the treaty has to concur with whatever the president is planning on entering into an agreement with another nation state, or in this case, an international organization. But the question remains is, do the senators actually have approval on any of this stuff? And my guess is, because of the articles that are being out there, because of the ones that have, the way the articles have been written, my guess is that they have not. And so most of the time, we use treaties and our own congressional law as sort of the law of the land. So if we enter into, meaning the U.S., if we enter into an agreement or a treaty with someone, then some other nation state, and it happens to deal with something that we have, then we as a whole need to abide by that treaty that we've entered into. Now, this is where Donald Trump kind of got into a little bit of hot water because Obama negotiated the Paris Accords. And if you recall, Trump said, no, we're backing out of the Paris Accords. And so in order for us to actually enter into the treaty, we're supposed to have 2/3 of the Senate approve it. But there isn't any real definition of backing out. See, the idea is that the president can back out of negotiations, but once the treaty is signed, potentially the only way to get out of the treaty is by Congress basically writing a law that says we are no longer abiding by this treaty. So in this case, what we're dealing with is a separation of the executive power and the legislative branch and their power. Because if you remember, according to the Constitution, Congress is the only one that can make laws. The president is charged with executing those laws. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see. Now, there's supposed to be a vote here in the coming days. I can't remember right off the top of my head as to when this vote is going to come out. But as a part of the amendments, the adoption of those amendments won't take 100% effect until 6 months has passed and nobody objects to them, basically. There is some things that are going on there, but the thing about it is that we have come across another part, just like what we did with the OSHA requirement with the vaccine mandates and the recent potential Roe versus Wade decision that is coming down. We are really starting to see a pattern here of potentially reining in the executive branch on some of their capabilities and some of what they do. Now, one of the things that's really interesting, and I've actually kind of taken a look at this, and I may do an episode on this, but has to deal with the whole idea of executive orders, and whether or not they are actually constitutional or not. So stay tuned. I'll probably do another episode on that, or I'll probably do a future episode on that. But here's the thing. So according to the Constitution, and if you look at the strict interpretation of the Constitution, the president cannot enter into any treaties with other countries. He can negotiate with those, but he cannot enter into any treaties without 2/3 of the Senate. Now, as with any law that's out there, of course, you have to have some enforcement of that law. I mean, we saw that with the Supreme Court justices and the whole idea that, you can protest or parade and picket in front of their homes, in front of their places of businesses. There was actually two separate, one federal and one state, that both were broken. And in actuality, when Glenn Youngkin actually got off his butt and actually did something, the local municipalities who he said go and enforce this law, they basically told him, no, we're not going to. So unfortunately, as with any kind of law, and we've got hundreds of them on the books. I mean, you can look up just about anything. There are hundreds of irrelevant laws on the books that, as long as there is no enforcement and punishment for them, that they're not going to be enforced. They're not going to be, bothered with. And that's a sad state of affairs, because right here we have the potential of the President Biden, by entering into this agreement with the World Health Organization, which, by the way, is an international organization and not even considered another nation state. So there's a potential of getting into some semantics in there. Okay. But you look at these things and you look at these treaties and these binding agreements that everybody thinks are binding. And there's a potential that if you are able to dig into, and somebody who's a lot smarter than me should probably do this, but start digging into some of these things where we have had the court interpret the Constitution loosely, very loosely. And in the case of the Roe v. Wade, just throw out legislation without, from the justice side of the House, which they're not allowed to do. Okay. Now, enough on that. That is a developing story. We're going to have to keep an eye on that one. Just like with the Durham investigations and everything else, we'll have to keep an eye on this. But the thing about it is that we need to be very, very cautious and very, very careful about what this administration is doing and how much of our actual sovereignty is being given away. Okay. Now, I caught this, and this is sort of interesting. I want to finish the night on a bit of a humorous note. Okay. So obviously everybody is like focused on 2022, and we really do need to focus on 2022. In fact, we need to really focus on the people who are strict constitutionalists, who are America First candidates, who not necessarily all that Trump has endorsed. Because, for an example, Dr. Oz, the last I heard, he and the opponent, I can't think of her name. I think her name's Kathy or something. But those two are like, from what we can tell, are all neck and neck at this point. And one of the things that is kind of amazing to me is that, everybody just automatically assumes that when Trump goes ahead and endorses a candidate, that's it. And I'm sorry, I do appreciate it's Barnett. Thank you, Mama, for putting this up. I think Kathy Barnett. But anyway, so the thing about it is, though, with this is it's sort of amazing to me how we are, and especially the Democrats, they're not accepting the fact that Joe Biden is absolutely trashing and crashing hard in possibility of being elected again. Okay. In fact, I mentioned this on Twitter under my account. There was a Washington Examiner headline that basically said, hey, 3 in 10 who voted for Trump in 2016 and voted for Biden in 2020 say that they'll vote for Biden again if he were to, come and run again. And the funny thing is that I turned around and I sent them a tweet and I said, actually the correct headline would be 7 in 10 of those who voted for Trump in 2016 and voted for Biden in 2020 actually will not vote for Biden again. If you look at how the headlines are written, you can see all of this stuff in a lot of different cases. Okay. Bongino calls it the Republicans pounce rule. And so he actually had an article that went over to an ABC News article that discussed the top 10 candidates for 2024 in the Democrat Party. And so let's go ahead and kind of take a look at that. Let me get this up. All right. Here is the starting at number 10, and number 10, unfortunately, because of the way they wrote it in the article, it's kind of funny and backwards. But number 10, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I'm sorry. AOC used to be a freaking bartender. She has not, some of her statements have been so far out of left field. I can't even imagine why they would even think of putting her up there. She is more of a vegetable, honestly, in the field of politics than Biden actually is. And that's saying one hell of a lot. Okay. The next one obviously is the neighbor to my south, Gavin Newsom. And Gavin Newsom, as you may or may not recall, is that Gavin Newsom is related to Nancy Pelosi. Okay. Other than that, he is a complete train wreck in California. In fact, his state has lost electoral votes because of the population as to how they've dropped. And this man keeps pushing and pushing and pushing the Democrat agenda that is all against the majority of the people, even in California. Democrats are looking at him and going, what the hell is wrong with you? And he's apparently, according to ABC News, is in the running. Then we have Spartacus himself, Cory Booker, in the 8th spot. I don't know where they got this list. I really don't. This is just horrible. Why would you put this guy up? This guy, oh my God, he has so much baggage and is such a ignoramus when it comes to a lot of things. But they go ahead and they put him on there. I mean, the Dems are doubling down here. I can't understand this. Okay. Now, these next two I'm not familiar with, which doesn't really surprise me that much. Number 7 is Sherrod Brown. And apparently, according to the article, the biggest shock in the early of 2020, and I'm reading from the article here, early 2020 Democratic primary cycle might have been when the senator from Ohio unexpectedly passed on running. Okay. Now, according to the article, it's because he decided he wasn't as invested in running as some of the other Democrats were. And it's even possible that that won't have changed in 2024. But considering that Sanders is 80 plus years old, he's an octogenarian, and Joe Biden is also going to be an octogenarian by the time he hits the re-election in 2023, 2024. There is a possibility that this gentleman or this person will go ahead and run. The next one is Roy Cooper. This is number 6. And he might be the dark horse, let's say, of the field. And it's partially due to his being a governor. So he's already in the executive branch. But it's just his style, they say. Now, I don't know who this guy is. It's going to be interesting to kind of take a look at, but yeah, if the elections and the electoral people over in the Democrat Party essentially want a Biden style candidate, which honestly right now I don't know where they got that idea, because Biden was elected to basically be a stump or of a lump in the basement and not touch anything, and here he is, doing all these radical things. So I'm sorry, America, you got sold a bill of goods on old Grandpa Joe just hanging out and leaving everything status quo. I'm telling you. All right, so let's move on to the top 5. Number 5, Amy Klobuchar, the senator from Minnesota. I don't know where these people are coming from. Where do they get the idea that they can run these people? I'll tell you why, and I'll tell you by the time I get done with the list. I'll tell you my thoughts on this. Obviously, one in 1024th Native American herself is number 4, Elizabeth Warren. Have you heard some of the things that have been coming out of her mouth, especially recently with regards to the whole abortion thing? She has literally no grasp on the Constitution. Of course, that's not saying much, because most of these people on this list probably have zero grasp of the Constitution and its importance, especially dealing with that particular law. However, she's gone off her rocker on a lot of these things. Now, number 3 is our current Vice President, Kamala Harris. Now, I'm going to throw this out there, and I'm just going to tell this to you straight, because this has happened multiple times. Kamala Harris was picked for one reason and one reason only. She checked a certain couple of boxes on the list of the equity form that Joe Biden was presented. Same thing with our current press secretary now. Jen Psaki left. This lady came in, and there's been stuff coming out on her tweets and everything else. I can't even imagine. Have you ever seen Kamala Harris actually speak in front of people? I am so shocked and surprised at how she, who is supposed to be a public speaker, can't even get out a sentence clearly. I mean, she's just as bad as Joe in a lot of cases in terms of trying to make her point. She talks in circles. Oh my gosh, I just cannot believe that. So that's number 3. Number 2 in their list is good old Pete Buttigieg, the man who is going to nurse his babies. Yeah, Pete Buttigieg. Okay. He's a transportation secretary who was totally absent when the whole thing about our supply chain issues came to light. I cannot imagine this man. And actually, even when you talk to him and you talk to him about transportation, he talks in circles. I can't even understand where he is going all the time with some of these things. This is just incredible. Incredible. And then, of course, number 1, they put out President Biden. And I'm sorry, but if you voted for him in 2020 and you vote for him again in 2024, considering that he has literally given us the highest freaking inflation in 40 years. He has caused the highest gas prices. And when in the hell have we ever had a shortage on baby formula? What the heck is going on with this man's administration? And the thing that he cares about is turning us all into electric vehicles and going after our climate change. And then, of course, he has the border completely wide open, which is another threat to our national sovereignty. I mean, seriously, another threat to our national sovereignty is opening up the southern border. And it's not the Mexican people coming into our country. In fact, there was Dan Bongino played a small clip of a person who was videotaping at the border, and he asked the people, where are you coming from? And a large group was saying they came from Cuba. Okay? These people are coming into this country for the free crap that this man, Joe Biden, is giving out. If you vote for him in 2024, I'm sorry, you are the literal definition of insane, because all you want to do is smack your head against the wall and expect a different result. This is ridiculous, totally ridiculous. But you know what? That's their bench, people. That's their bench. They have literally nobody who is a qualified candidate who can actually articulate themselves well and identify with the people of this great country. And you have, in our side, you have President Trump. You have Governor Ron DeSantis. If he decides to run, I guarantee you there will be a bunch of support for him, even though we're not part of the Florida state. But that guy is the super governor. He should be the leader of all of the governors that are out there. Those people, he is just incredible. He is making all kinds of inroads, and he is demonstrating, not just saying, but demonstrating that he is completely America first. I would follow that man into combat. Then you have a few others. You have, Kristi Noem. I kind of had a couple of issues with her, but for the most part, she's been okay. We've got sort of Nikki Haley, but the point that I'm making here is that we have options. We on the right side, on the Republican side, there are options available to us. From that list of 10, they have 0 options. Every single one of those people is a complete lost moron. And yeah, I do have, we have Salt Nards who just popped this up. And he says, Jim Jordan. Yes. You know what? And believe it or not, actually, Senator Cruz has sort of redeemed himself, kind of. I'm not 100% sold on him yet. But as far as I can say, Jim Jordan also has a little baggage, but he's good too. I mean, we're not going to get perfect, unfortunately. I mean, I would say probably the last president that we had that could even be considered close to perfect, in my opinion, is Ronald Reagan. Everybody else who has come behind him has all been, in my opinion, also a globalist and has put us into this particular situation. Okay. But that being said, I mean, Ted Cruz is making some serious inroads. Jim Jordan is another one. Rand Paul is another one who I've been extremely surprised with. I have to admit, with Rand Paul, his single-handedly holding up that 40 billion boondoggle over the last couple of days, that has impressed me. You know, I'm really not necessarily into MTG. Marjorie Taylor Greene, I think she's a little extreme. I'm not going to lie. I think she's extreme. I would have to actually see more, but I can tell you this much. She has more cojones than Joe Biden and Pete Buttigieg put together. Okay. Now, the thing about it is, though, that I'm trying to get across is the list is long and distinguished of the possibilities that we can pull from. Those of us on the right can actually pull from. The challenge is not so much having the possibilities. The challenge that we have is the number of people that we have to filter out. Because to be completely honest, you can say you're a Republican. You can say that you're a conservative. You can say that you're a constitutionalist. But until you actually come down to the point where you have a vote that you stand up for, that is where the proof is going to be in the pudding, if you don't mind my saying. And I got to tell you, I am extremely disappointed in Dan Crenshaw. He came flying out of the gate, in my opinion, as being a staunch conservative, a fighter for rights, a fighter for America. And he ended up just, I don't know, the wind got sucked out from under his wings or something, and he is on his crashing and burning stage. I'm going to be completely honest. When he started talking about things like gun control and everything else, that just killed it. Okay. You know, Salt North pops up and he says, Matt Gaetz. Well, I'm going to have to watch him. I'll be honest with you. I'm going to watch him. And the reason being is because Matt has got some baggage also, just like Jim, just like, Senator Cruz. They have a little baggage that they really have to work through. And I'm a little concerned about that baggage being a bit of a problem. But then again, we have Joe Biden, who freaking told the Ukrainians to fire the person, the prosecuting attorney, or they were gonna freaking not get their money. And he's been implicated in his son's business dealings. So you know what? Right now, I got to be honest with you. Everything is on the table. It's all wide open right now. It could be anybody. I mean, shoot, we've got criminals. We've got people who lie. We've got the FBI. We've got all of our intelligence agencies. I mean, everything in the last 10 years is just going to an incredible extreme. Mama Kitties, she pops up and says, I like Holly. You know what? He's another one to watch. And the reason why I actually like him is because he's sort of like Rand Paul. When he gets his teeth into something, he never really lets go. And his age is an advantage for him. He's got a long career. If he can just stay on the good path, I think we have a long history a long period where we're not going to have a lot of this BS that we've got going on right now. And oh my gosh. Okay. Thank you, Day. Thank you, Day. I will go ahead and do that. I appreciate that. I take a sip. Whew. I'm on fire with the fireball. Wow. Okay. All right. Well, I see I've kind of gone over my time, and that pretty much rounds out my subjects and topics for tonight. Hey, do me a favor. That is my final Whiskey Musings thought. Got to throw that phrase in there. Do me a favor. If you like the broadcast, please, 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 at a minimum, let other people know about it. Okay. Let other people know about this show. I'd like to expand. I'd like to continue. I want to get to, 200 and 500 and maybe even 1,000. I mean, I can dream, can't I? If you want to help the program, you can participate by doing super rants, of course. But we also have the Whiskey Musings store. It is store.whiskeymusings.online. The link is in the description below. I have the t-shirts, sweatshirts, all kinds of stuff with both my phrase, which is when I drink, I think, and also the logo, my starting and ending logo. You can take a look. There's a bunch of other stuff too. It's not just clothing. I've got pint glasses, mugs, stickers, all kinds of stuff. You can just go and peruse the store. I think that's pretty much about it. Thank you very much for joining and for coming in and being patient with some of the technical difficulties in the beginning. This is it. 100 episodes in the books. Thank you for joining, and we'll see you next time on the Whiskey Musings broadcast. Have a great weekend and a good rest of your night. Good night, everyone.